Teachers of Reddit, what are your most terrifying, Gen Alpha can't read, behave, etc.? Number 1. I teach high school math. I've encountered many students who are operating at maybe a second grade level of math. Seniors who couldn't do 2 by 3 in their heads. Juniors who didn't know what a square root was. Seniors who couldn't solve for x in x plus 1 is equal to 8. Freshmen who couldn't add or subtract. I had one sophomore this year who could not wrap her mind around 20 more than in a certain type of problem. I tried for a few minutes before saying, let's say you and I go into a store. I'm going to buy some number of apples and you plan on buying 20 more apples than what I buy. If I buy 5 apples, how many would you buy? 20. Number 2. Teacher friend told me that for years she's been seeing ability to interact with technology decline. She says a lot of her students now basically have the same ability to solve problems on a computer that you'd expect from your grandparents. I suspect growing up in the very curated world of tablets and apps has allowed them to skip all the troubleshooting lessons millennials had to learn on old computers and the early internet. Number 3. I learned the second bit the hard way myself as a millennial. I am used to if something stops working, just replacing it. Well, I had a button go out on my controller I use for my computer, and I was gonna just replace it. However, I was wanting to save money because I'll be back by a neat hobby shop in a few months and wanted money for that. So I decided to see if I could fix it. It wasn't a 5-minute fix, it was literally an hour because I had to fully disassemble the damn thing, but I fixed the problem. A rice-sized piece of debris somehow got in the controller that doesn't have gaps that big, and it was not a piece of the controller, and it was blocking the button from fully depressing. Quick edit. Troubleshooting expensive stuff like my computer I'm adept at, but stuff that's not very expensive, I usually just replace. Number 4. I was an elementary school sub for many years. Phonics is no longer taught in our district, and they don't do math drills in class. It's all supposed to be done at home by the parents, and that doesn't happen. So the kids don't have the muscle memories in place with the basics, which prevents them from being able to think through the rest of the problem. Plus, our district bought into this concept of spiral math, where the kids are introduced to high math concepts, like negative numbers, each year starting in first grade, but they don't go into depth with the basics. They see the same concept again the next year, and they still don't get it. And so on until middle school. By then they've decided math is a mysterious black hole, they hate it, and they're going to avoid it whenever possible. It made teaching so frustrating, and it was awful to see the sheer dread and confusion on their faces whenever math was taught. We can do better. Number 5. I work in higher education administration at a major university. I don't deal much with undergraduates, but some of the email communications with graduate students are like pulling teeth because they just don't take in the information. They might, say, ask me when a grant that they were just awarded will be added to their account. I'll look it up and reply, thanks for getting in touch with me. Before the grant can be applied, I need documentation A, documentation B, and documentation C from you. I'll get back, okay. Can you give me a timeline of when I can expect the grant? At this point, I'm internally sighing because I know where this is going. I can give you a better timeline once I have documentation A, documentation B, and documentation C. Please send these at your earliest convenience so I can process them. Nothing can happen with a grant until I have those pieces of documentation. They'll send me documentation A with another. Okay, here you go. Will the award be applied now? Repeat with me, having to individually ask for each other piece of documentation. Finally, many emails later and me wanting to smash my head against my desk repeatedly, I'll thank them for giving me everything, run it through the system, and tell them they should see their award in a few days, a week at most, and to let me know if they don't. Many will contact me the next day with, I still don't see my award. When will it be applied? It's like there's no reading comprehension going on, and these are supposed to be some of the brightest grad students in this field. Comments on what would you do better? Number 6. Not a teacher but an educator at a museum. I had a parent allow their child of 3 to 5, I had no idea their age but they were walking and talking but still pretty small, to open random drawers and cabinets which included a cleaning supplies closet and attempt to play with industrial grade cleaning materials. When I asked her not to do that, she told me I was discouraging his creativity and argued that since we are an interactive museum, everything is part of the exhibit, it isn't. Upon me asking him to stop, she stormed off. The issue here is very much the parents, but I've also seen this type of behavior from children who would in theory know not to attempt to play in a janitor's closet, or in one case climb on a 1905 fire truck behind a series of ropes with a sign that says, "Do not touch." There were certain times we had to lock up our chickens, we had an outdoor component, in a tall fenced area, or leave them in the coop all day due to children attempting to ride the chickens like a horse. No chickens were hurt, or throw things like pencils at them. And while this all happens, the parents are nowhere to be found or just do not intervene at all. Edit. I do not really blame the children for any of this, as it is primarily a parenting issue. Both being too violent/mean and being practically absent contribute to bad behavior, along with excessive device use from both kids and parents, especially parents who use devices as a shut-up tool. Your kids are little people. They are not just accessories or robots to program to act how you want them to with enough beating or shouting. Working with your kids, explaining why things are and are not the way they are, and enforcing reasonable and logical consequences is how you get some of this to stop. I have had a lot of bad kids come through my museum and behave well for me because I treated them with respect and gave them structure with my lessons, which I included them in. I know not everyone has the ability to be as freeform with how they teach or parent. But it's never the kid's fault, and even if their behavior made my job harder, I never blamed them for it. Life sucks when you're new to the world and trying to figure it all out. The least we can do is be good examples, even if we only cross paths once. Number 7. One of my 4th graders was provisionally promoted from 3rd grade in the middle of the school year. He was reading at a 1st grade level when he arrived in my class. He hit his 14-day suspension cap quickly because he was constantly fighting with other kids instead of actually trying to learn. The guidance counselor pulled him out to do a therapeutic art project one afternoon. That's how we discovered that he doesn't know his shapes either. It was one of the worst cases of educational neglect that I've seen. Of course, the parent was upset that her kid was not on honor roll and demanded to know why he was failing every subject. Oh yeah, the regional superintendent overruled us and promoted him to 5th grade. Number 8. Only 27% of the incoming 6th graders at the local middle school are proficient in math skills. Also, next to zero problem-solving skills or critical thinking skills, like a do it for me, or I'm just not doing that woman shrugging mindset for schoolwork. You can turn in 0 work for a class and get passed through. We don't require motivation anymore. Edit to add, for reference on how disturbing the math percentage is, 6th grade math skills would include basic work with fractions, finding averages of a group of numbers, reading a graph or chart, basic decimal operations, finding percents, etc. We give multiplication charts now instead of memorizing your basic multiplication facts. Number 9. Almost weekly occurrence in my high school teacher friend's classroom. Let's call this student James. My friend said, "Hey, James, where's your laptop?" "James, it's in my bag." My friend said, "Why isn't it out?" James said, "It's dead." My friend said, "Where's your charger?" James, "At home, I think." My friend said, "Perhaps one of the other 20 students in this room have a charger you can borrow?" James, "Maybe." Stares blankly for 5 seconds. My friend said, "Well, are you going to ask someone?" James, "Oh, right, can I borrow a charger?" My buddy says it's like they have no ability to pivot to plan B when plan A fails. Number 10. Currently studying to be a teacher. In one of my in-school placements, I had students come up to me and ask what time it was. I would always look at the clock on the wall that they had clear view of and tell them the time. None of the kids, 12 to 14-year-olds, knew how to read a clock. I even explained how to read it to a few of them and they looked at me like I had 2 heads. Subscribe for more daily Reddit stories like this.